The outside of your home deserves as much love as the inside. Now, normally I'm talking about the insides, but I happen to be certified as an interior and environmental designer. So today let's talk about some of the common outdoor mistakes that we can fix pretty easily. And if you're under construction or you're in the middle of a renovation, I've got some tips that you can do now that future you is really going to thank you for. So first up, everything's expensive these days. And if you've been building or remodeling, you're probably tapped out. I know the feeling. We don't budget enough for the exterior stuff we're going to need. Hardscapes, landscaping, trees and shrubs. They cost a lot of money. Lighting, drainage, sewage, sprinklers, fences, railings, all of that stuff starts to add up. When you are planning, if you're planning a new house or a renovation, I get it when you have to do things in stages. I'm certainly there. You got to plan for a couple of things. The first thing when it comes to your exterior is you got to be able to get to your front door, your garage, wherever it may be that you enter your house without getting mud or sand or clay into the house every day while you wait for sod to be delivered or whatever is going on in the yard. You got to have a pathway. That's number one. You got to have railings too to pass code. So those are things that we budget for, but we don't think about the trees, the spaces, the flowers, the lighting, the stuff that's going to make the house feel finished, feel layered, feel like all the attention you've spent on the inside. So put some money aside for trees. They ain't cheap. So if nothing else, when you're doing a project, make sure you make a master plan. I started drawing the exterior and where pathways will go and flowers and where mature trees will grow into before we knock down walls. We redid the pool first. I mean, you gotta have priorities. So make a master plan and prioritize what's important for you for the outside. If you don't have a lot of outdoor space and you don't have to plan for that, you know that in advance. But if there are things that you can set aside now or plan for now to plant trees or to get walkways or to get electrical and lighting in place while they're digging up and making a mess of everything else, it's good to include that in the plan and to prioritize what stage things can go in. Like there were trees I couldn't plant until they were done ruining my front yard, which now we're trying to fix. So I've got plenty of works in progress, stuff in pots. This is my latest tree. It's called a powder puff. It gets these little pink flowers all year long. That over there is my other powder puff that I planted 4 years ago. Over here you can see some of my experiments and some of my failures. Gardening is a learning experience. I don't know if this one's gonna make it. You can see the visions start to come to life. Now on that, when we first bought this place, I could see the potential, but some people in my family saw a chain link fence and immediately thought an episode of Cops. And so my husband wanted to tear the chain link fence out immediately. But being the cheapskate that I am and seeing hundreds and hundreds of feet at the back of our property, I thought, why not plant some trees now? Before we started construction, before I even started really formalizing the plans and hiring architects, I went out and I bought a bunch of calusas and I dug little tiny 1-foot holes. I got little tiny 5-gallon trees like this big and put them in the ground. 4 years later, it's a complete privacy hedge. So think about what planting you can do now. A tree right now might be small, might not look like anything, but in 5 years' time, it can change the architecture of your yard. It can give you shade and privacy. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today. So go get some small trees, plant them on exterior perimeter lines where you know no one's going to be digging or dumping spackle or doing something stupid and digging up the new plants that you put in. Put those in. Get those smaller trees established and they'll be big trees by the time you're finished hanging pictures inside. Buying established trees, large trees, is expensive because time is expensive. So if you've got a master plan, you can start your planting early with smaller trees. Number 3, don't think about your yard like a yard. Think about it like a series of spaces that you're going to use for eating, for entertaining, for lounging, for swimming, for gardening, for relaxing. If you define the spaces on your plot, just like a floor plan, and you give yourself rooms, you'll end up using more of the spaces. You have that space to go where the hammock is and read a book. You have another space with a fire pit where you're going to hang out with company, a quiet place to garden back in the corner. Whatever it might be, define the rooms that you need on your plot. It's easy to define the rooms when you know what you want. So think about how you're going to use the space. Like, I know we needed a very large yard to throw the lacrosse ball and not have it break anyone's windows. We needed a place to lounge by the pool, a barbecue, a fire pit, a dining area. What do you want to do outside? Define those spaces, and then that helps you to make those rooms and make it fit more of your lifestyle. Think about your interests and what you want to do in the yard. So I love to garden. I gave myself a space hidden off the other side of the yard to do my experiments, to kill plants, to try again, and to plant them out in the yard and see what works. Make the yard work for you and for what you love to do. So if you want just a shady spot to read a book in a hammock, plant a tree, hang a hammock. When my daughter was little, she had severe allergies, ending up in the emergency a few times. So I started going deep on everything about allergies and the shots and whether or not to do the shots and all of that. And it led me down the path to this doctor and this book called Sex in the Garden. And it talks about the kinds of plants we put in our garden and how they affect our health. And, you know, for instance, Taxus hue, which is a common shrub used everywhere I grew up, is a cancer drug. So putting it outside your kid's window, putting a cypress outside someone who has high allergies, probably not a good idea. So in addition to plants being beautiful and giving us privacy and shade and all the other things they do, they affect our health as well. They can bring down the temperature of our house by giving shade in hot climates, or they can give us a windbreak. Think about your plants as more than just plants. The plants can also add depth and dimension to your architecture, to your yard. They can define your walkways and to enhance some of the architectural features. Like, I've got a boring front facade. Adding depth and texture and heights and different plant colors gives the house a little bit more architectural interest. I would be remiss if I did not mention that you need lighting in your garden. We want to use it at night too. It's really cool out there. Watch the stars, see what kind of creepy crawlies are in my bushes, feed the stray cats. So light up your yard, not like a runway. Be respectful of your neighbors. Don't have spotlights that go on in their house. That's obnoxious. You know who you are. But we want soft lights, lights that light up the path. We have to think about safety as well when it comes to lighting. You want to light your outdoor access points, your front door, your back door, the shed, your pathways, any sketchy corners. You want to make sure that the perimeter of your property is well lit softly. So you can do path lights, up lights, tree lighting. There's all kinds of stuff out there. You can get crazy with the lighting, string lights in the trees, whatever's going to make the space more usable for more hours of the day. When it comes to choosing the hardscapes, that's your stone, your walkway, your pavers, all of that stuff, your plants and the colors and all of that go on the outside, you want to at least consider the architecture of your house and how that's going to play together. We don't want to have a very contemporary house that's got weeping cottage hydrangeas over a picket fence. It doesn't make sense. You also don't want upright cactuses with a nice cottage with, you know, muttons in the window and, you know, shingles all around and that. It doesn't work. You want your architecture to be enhanced by the plants and the stonework you choose. And to do that, you got to start applying interior design rules to the outside. Like I said, I have a degree in interior and environmental design because your exterior is an extension of your house, or at least we hope it is. Even your patio, even your view and your windows, you can frame them right, are an extension of your inside. So we want to think about the same rules: rhythm, layering, using different textures, using different heights, scale and proportion. You don't want one giant oak tree in the tiniest little yard. It's not in proportion. Rhythm and repetition with your lights or with the same plants over and over again gives people a sense of what's coming, of what they should expect. The space, we got airplanes, I got woodpeckers, I got every kind of thing going on today. When you apply the same kind of interior design rules to the exterior, you get that layered, rich, comfortable look. Like, I want to go out there and hang out. And when you're going out there and hanging out, think about the kind of furniture you're going to buy. When you think about this, consider your weather, consider Mother Nature. Having lived near salt water my entire life, there are materials that literally turn to dust within years. Teak, forget about it. I had a metal sconce that I could crumble after only 5 years being outside in the salt air. Mother Nature is brutal, so choose wisely. I've done really well with polywood. I've got a ton of it now. I'm going to keep adding to it. But you got to choose for your weather. You also have to consider things like, is it movable? We have to move all this furniture inside when a hurricane comes, sometimes several times in a year. Think about how you're going to use that furniture, how you're going to store it. For instance, your cushions. Cushions are always the big dilemma. Do you spend money on the Sunbrella, the really nice outdoor fabric? It's going to hold up in the weather and the sun and it's not going to fade. Or do you get cheapo ones from Walmart and you change the color every year and you accept the fact that mildew in the sun is going to fade it? It really doesn't matter. Neither is right or wrong. You get to change it, or you have this nice one that you have to take care of and put away when nasty weather comes. But choosing fabrics outside adds another layer, and it adds a level of comfort, brings the inside outside again. So make sure you're adding pillows, you're adding cushions, outdoor rugs, umbrellas, shade. After many attempts, I went with polywood furniture for outside. We're close to the beach, the salt air kills everything. And in addition, although I love a cushy cushion like these here, in Florida, it's a gorgeous day. It could be torrential rains in 30 seconds. So these chase lounges with the netting, they dry off quickly. You gotta know your lifestyle, your family. I know nobody's getting out here to put these cushions away in time. So this saves me from a lot of wet asses. If you design your outdoor spaces right, you're not just landscaping a yard, you are designing outdoor spaces that expand your living. So thanks so much for watching. See you next time. It's like being on the surface of the sun.